Welcome.
Okay.
Hi. Long time no talk to. Even though I've been talking to you all week.
I know. Nice to see you again.
I'm looking forward to working together, though. I'm looking forward to seeing what we figure out.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So for people who are in here and probably most likely don't know, we're working on some sort of collaboration where we're going to host an underwater modeling and photography kind of like educational, what would you call it?
Yeah, it's probably going to be more like an educational workshop because at this point, there's a little thing in the corner that I couldn't see because my camera was blocking it. 5 people are watching. Hi, 5 people. Yeah, so the thought process behind it is we'll have a day for photographers and then we'll have a day for models, and it'll go over whatever, safety precautions, things to think about, things you might need, things you might not think of, that sort of thing. And I'm having a hard time with the photographer side of it. I feel like the photographer side of it has to be 2 days because I feel like there has to be editing built in there somewhere. And I don't know if that's a second day of going over editing together or if that's like something I need to put together first and then, go from there. But
yeah, I guess the color corrections and everything that goes into actually editing a photo.
Right.
Important.
Exactly.
And it's hard. It's difficult it's hard to do. It sucks.
Well, there's some basics, like there's some general basics that kind of everybody does when it comes to the underwater editing. I don't do most of them apparently. But Jennifer Riker was really, really helpful early on. She was the reason I shot the first time underwater. I used her camera. She's got a Sony. She's got the A7. And of course, I had never used Sony. And now she has like the hard casing for hers. I have a soft casing for mine, which apparently terrifies most people when they see it. But so it was a lot different using that than it is my camera because my camera feels a little bit more natural because I can kind of touch everything the way I normally would. But she was really great when it came to, hey, here's what the typical edit looks like. Here's how most people edit the underwater stuff. And I use some of it, but I don't find I use all of it because mine have a tendency to be a little too grainy because of how I do them, but they also don't always look like they're underwater with how I do them, which is what I like. I don't always want it to look like blue water every time, I edit something.
Sorry, I'm choking on soup.
It's okay. No choking. I can't get there to save you.
Well, it's okay. I'm okay now. I think the thing that I personally struggle with, because I shoot and edit a lot of my own content, I'm always, I don't know, it's like the moment I get one thing right, like the color, I get everything kind of looking the color palette the way that I want it to, then everything looks either like too sharp or not sharp enough, and by the time I change that, it looks fake. Or I don't know, like I give myself like uncanny valley vibes by accident, and my own photos are creeping me out. Like that's great.
So I think part of it is it depends on what you're shooting with, what your file type is, and what you're actually using to do the edits. That makes a huge difference too. I mean, I use Photoshop for everything, but I also shoot RAW as much as I can. I've tried editing JPEGs, like underwater JPEGs. Like one of the photos that I have that I really, really like was one of my first ones, which was, if I remember correctly, was a JPEG because that was what she sent me. And it turned out okay, but I felt like it was a little bit harder to edit because I didn't have all the information I normally would with a RAW.
Yeah, I think I do shoot in RAW. Like sometimes I forget to change the setting or whatever, but I do try to remember to do that. And I use a GoPro, which is great, but it's not good for pools for some reason. Unless you're taking a video. So it's weird. Like the GoPro is so finicky, but when it works so well, which is why I'm not willing to give it up. But when I'm at Ginny Springs or in the more natural bodies of water, if I use my GoPro with a pink filter on the lens, I don't really have to do much editing because everything just looks okay because of the filter. It's taking out a lot of those unwanted tones.
Okay.
And then in the pool, it looks good if there's a video with the pink filter and everything. But then
I'm going to chime in real quick.
Yeah.
Matt Long says GoPro is no fun to edit for most anything.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think it's so good for natural environments and video. It's not so great for like if you're in a studio underwater situation.
So I recently, and I'm actually really curious to use it now because it's going to be part of, what I do with the underwater. I want to have behind the scenes finally this year, better quality behind the scenes for the underwater while I'm shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on. I knew this. I told you. He's been asleep all day, and now he's just like, "Hey, what are you doing? I need attention. I'm talking." Oh, you're just going to sit there. Okay. So I'll be curious to see. So the reason I got the GoPro 11, like I didn't want to spend any more money on gear, and I have a cell phone that I can potentially use underwater. Like I can just kind of weight it and set it where I want. Was for the horizon lock, because I'd like to this year, like even shooting on dry land, I attach the GoPro to the top of my camera.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the previous GoPros, if I went, or I was using my cell phone, I was using an extra cell phone that I had. Well, I couldn't get any stability. Like and I move, I'm moving, I'm on the floor, I'm hanging from something, I'm on a ladder. It's ridiculous. But it's how I get what I want half the time. And I couldn't get the stability that I needed. So I got the 11 because it's got the horizon lock.
Mm-hmm.
So if I start here taking a shot and then I turn my camera this way, the shot still stays this way. It doesn't go the portrait mode with me. So I'm curious to see how that one's going to do underwater for like the behind the scenes stuff.
Well, because it can't, I mean, gravity is different underwater. It's not likely gonna, do anything funky. It's pretty.
Yeah.
I haven't had any problems with that, but I probably just jinxed it. So we'll see.
So for the people that are watching that don't know who you are or what you do, how did you get started in this?
Yeah, so I want to say back in 2018, right after I graduated undergrad. I graduated in 2017, and then I was out on my own. And excuse me, soup. And having adult money, I'm like, one of the things I want to get is like a mermaid tail. Like, do they even make those? I just want to see, like, because I'd seen, the really professional, high quality ones, but those are crazy expensive.
Sure.
And, back then and now, they're still really expensive. So I was off on a mission to kind of see if I could find a different version of that, or I don't know what I was just looking for something else. So I stumbled upon two websites. I found the Finfolk website and I found the Swimtails website. And Swimtails isn't around. Swimtails isn't.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I've never heard of that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a really interesting experience with them. But
do tell.
I
love interesting experiences.
I ended up getting my first tail from Swimtails, and it's a I actually just posted it on my Instagram and Facebook. It's like a big realistic green tail, and I love that thing. And at that time I had already been modeling, so I already had the connections in that industry, and I had photographer friends who wanted to take pictures with the tail and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I forgot to mention the one of my friends went halvesies on it for me for my birthday that year.
Oh, that was sweet.
Yeah, it was really sweet. So I did my first official mermaid shoot in 2018, and then when I posted the photos, things just really took off from there because people were like, wow, like, what is this? And they were really interested and really into it, and that's how I was able to get a lot of local work. Like I did some brand ambassador stuff for small businesses in Fredericksburg. I did birthday parties in Fredericksburg because that's where I was living at the time. And then I thought of, like making a website, and the website was primarily for my modeling, but it kind of spiraled over to the other side pretty quickly because that's what people were interested in. So that's how I ended up doing a lot of mermaid stuff, and I decided to make a business out of it, and it just has grown into this huge, awesome thing that I'm very proud of now. I have like a team of mermaid performers that I send out on gigs and whatnot, and we're booked for some pretty major events this year in Virginia. So definitely keep an eye
I'm
out.
going to interrupt you. Hi, Norse Kitten. I love you and I miss you. Mwah. Okay, that's you.
I can't
I
see
actually, it's okay. What I did was I pulled it up on the side, so now I can see like who it is since I can't see it like in this in StreamYard.
Gotcha. For anybody watching, I can't see people's names unless you're on YouTube. Apparently, I can see YouTube names, but not
well, YouTube, and if they're looking from my actual profile, but if they're in my DMV group watching, we can't see it because of the way I guess there's permission settings. But I will say that was actually something I noticed when I checked out your website. Was I like the fact that you had a, if you want to book a mermaid, email them situation. And you said that works out pretty well for you guys, right?
Yeah, it does. I actually, I'm in the process of moving everything over to my diving website because paying for 2 websites at this point that basically do the same thing, it's just, I'd rather consolidate. But yeah,
talk about that for a second, because you got into this doing modeling and being a mermaid because you're just like, hey, one day I just want to be a mermaid. Like, I never thought I would do underwater photography, yet here we are.
Yeah. So I mean, I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the other website yet because it started out as a personal website, and then I added so much to it, and then I added the Hire a Mermaid thing to it, which has other people on it. And then my focus, of course, I still do the modeling and the photography and whatnot, but my focus shifted more towards the diving side of things when I got my PADI instructor certification.
Sure.
So I figured I'd rather have one website that kind of fuses all of my stuff in one place because I feel like having the mermaids under a diving website makes us look a little bit more legitimate.
Okay.
Not that anybody's not legitimate. It's not that type of thing. It's just
no, you're talking about from a professional.
Yeah, the perceptions of other people do matter, like whether we like it or not. Absolutely.
So, there was a whole conversation in my DMV group on perception and perspective yesterday. So it's everywhere and everything in every part of our lives.
Yeah, it does, and it does matter. And you can either adapt or die. In my opinion, you either use it to your advantage and you you do things that way, or you decide not to. And it just depends on what you want to do. You can do whatever you want. But I decided that I'd rather have everything under my diving website. And you can still book people there and everything. I just have to build that out a little more so people will be able eventually to go into the individual profiles of the mermaids and hire them individually for things, because they're all experienced underwater models too. There's tons of us out there, and I feel it's like
So I have a question for you on that, because I have been working on something in the background, and I've been saying this for about a year now because I've literally been working on it in the background, the best way to approach it. When I told you were doing something on your website that I had considered, you were doing it differently than what I was working on trying to do, which sounds like you're still trying to do what I'm trying to do as well too. There is no great way to book certain talent because there's no space for them. So I've been trying to work on, and the bigger part of the learning curve, please go away. You're not okay. We're gonna we're gonna do this on live TV. Oh, you're pretty. Did you know that? So what I want to build is a gig software or a gig website, but for all creatives, photographers, models, videographers, musicians, artists, that sort of thing. But I want to build in, because one of the bigger things that has really been so prevalent, and it's been prevalent throughout the history of models and photographers, is behavior, inappropriate behavior. So I'd like to be able to build in a reviewing system so you can review the person you worked with, background check to be verified, and that's going to, however your background check goes is going to depend on how you're verified and what you're verified for. And then I'd like to build in tracking. So when they would be able to book a gig, whoever the creative is would have a small portfolio. You'd be able to have a calendar to book them, have a conversation with them, maybe even a video chat. Because I mean, I've had it happen where people have reached out because, they want photos done. And I'm like, that's great. Sometimes I shoot from my home, but I don't know you, so sometimes it's nice to be able to have a video chat with someone to be able to, kind of vet them a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to build in tracking because, we'll stick to models and photographers because that's, what we deal with the most. If a model books with a photographer, they both have to check in for the job. They both get tracked until they both close out.
Mm-hmm.
And then that last tracking ends when they close the session.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that would help with, the model safety side of the industry or not, but that's what I'm saying. There's somebody else, I think it's Emily Rose. She's been trying to do something very similar, but I think what she's doing is she wants to try to do some sort of an app that's about tracking. I don't exactly know what she's working on. I've seen her post a few things here or there, but it would be really nice to have one central location because I have one model that I've worked with before. She's constantly like booted off of Facebook, and I've messaged her through Facebook to go, hey, what are your model rates right now? She's never seen the message. I sent it probably like 4 or 5 months ago, but even her like bio link doesn't really take me anywhere to go, okay, where's she traveling to? What's her schedule right now? Is she going to be in my area anytime soon? Am I going to be in one of the areas she's traveling through? There's just no great space for that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a lot. So you'd be building a pretty complicated app.
I know. That's why I've been working on it for a year.
I mean, it's not a bad idea. It's just a lot. It's a good idea. And yeah. Assuming everything works flawlessly, that's great. But you're always, I think like it's also important to understand like you're always going to have people who circumvent the rules or who figure out ways to be weird and creepy.
Of course.
And there's also like, unfortunately, people who lie about each other. And, it's just like, it's hard. It's hard to like know exactly what's going on sometimes.
Oh, I agree with you.
I think the reviews are important, and it would be good if you could attach like photos to the reviews, like proof.
Right.
Because otherwise, even if somebody is correct about somebody, if there's no proof, it's just he said, she said. Like nobody else knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. So I think an important thing to include would be like the opportunity to put screenshots or photos in there so people can see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that's the harder part, which is kind of what brought some of this up is being a female photographer that works with a lot of people that are, half naked or naked very often. I get put in a position of like monkey in the middle. Mm-hmm. So-and-so model has an issue with so-and-so photographer. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to try to victimize a victim, somebody who feels like they've been victimized by something. Let's see. Matt said something. What did Matt say? Talk to me, Matt. As a male photographer, this would be huge. The peace of mind aspect that you aren't getting ready to go to a shoot with a questionable individual would be great. You know what? And that makes a great point too, is I get caught in the middle of, we need to blacklist this person because I've somehow put myself in a position of, being an advocate, which is fine. I don't mind being that person. My hard part sometimes is, who do I throw under the bus? Mm-hmm. Do I keep both individuals in my world and just go, okay, you guys have made these choices, you've made these statements, or am I supposed to throw the person under the bus that, without any backup? Sometimes I get backup and I'm like, all right, I agree with you, fine, not a problem. But I also don't want to victimize a victim at the same time either, because I don't have enough information.
Sometimes I think in those situations, there really like isn't a right answer sometimes. And it's best to like, okay, you guys are having issues with each other, like may have happened that way, may not have, I don't know. So like, how am I supposed to make a decision, if like, especially if it's two people that I don't know very well,
Right.
then it's like, I want to totally be on your side, dude, but at the same time, like, I don't really know you that well. And yeah, it's and like I think people are, they don't really want to, like, they want to pick a side, like they want to be on the right side.
Right, right. Well, and that's it. I'm sure there's a truth and a lie in there somewhere and potentially on both sides sometimes. But
Mhm.
to Matt's point, as a male photographer, I actually a lot of my photographer friends are male, just for the simple fact that men are predominantly the ones, in the photography world, especially even shooting, nudity or spicy content, whatever word we want to use for it. And with that being said, there are some men that are more successful. And I don't think what they've realized is the reason that they're so successful with it is because they don't make women uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a really major thing because, like, we pick up on it
mhm,
immediately. Um,
sure.
like,
And that, okay.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Like, even in the first messages that you send somebody, for me anyway, like, I can just tell. I'm like, I know exactly where this is going. I'm not
Right.
gonna like, this isn't gonna work. And like, I don't shoot spicy content or whatever, but
Right.
just even with anything, like I've had people try to fetishize me because I'm do the mermaid stuff, and people get
Right.
really, 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 really wrapped up in that for some reason. And
Mhm.
I'm
I
like,
could see
dude,
it.
this is real life. Like, you're talking to a real person. Like, I'm not literally gonna, like, I don't know what books you've been reading or like what Wattpad sites you've been on, but this is not like, I'm a person. Like, there's a real human over here in
Right.
your life under the tail, like, I promise.
Well, yeah. Well, I think that's part of it sometimes too, because I've seen it in some of the shoots that I've been at. That I think there's a fine line between doing professional photography and when you're working with people that work in the spicy industry. There's a fine line between fetish and professional. And a
Mhm,
lot of the people that are even in the professional role participate in the fetish side. And that line has a tendency to get blurred over and over and over again.
mhm,
Because again, it comes back to that perspective and that perception of why is everybody there.
mhm,
And kind of like to your point of what you're doing and being fetishized or however you put it. Um, some of that has to go back to the fact that because they're paying you for something, they feel like they can ask you for whatever they want from the situation.
mhm,
And some are more pushy than others because they feel like if they push you just enough, you're going to tip over whatever your boundary point is.
mhm.
And that's always my biggest piece of advice is just whatever your boundary is, you stick to it. I don't
And
care
that's why
what
you
it
have
is.
a contract too. Like, lay it all
Mhm.
out on the line. Like, I will not do XYZ. Like, this is
Yep.
not okay. Like, I'm not here for this. Like, discuss it and talk about it too, because you don't ever want to be vague with things like that. You want to be able to back yourself up. Like, if something happens and you have to go through the legal system, like, you need to be able
Sure.
to be, really thorough, because unfortunately law enforcement doesn't always take women seriously, and we have to do more due diligence than is probably like even necessary, because you never know. Like, you got to make sure that you have everything backed up, and you don't delete messages, and you don't delete screenshots, and you just have to be really thorough and careful.
So that actually brings up a good point too. Like personally, because a lot of the stuff that I do with models is collaborative.
I'm gonna close my door real quick.
That's
I'm sorry.
fine.
Okay.
So I don't usually do a contract if we're doing TFP because
Mhm,
to me, there's no point in having a contract at that point because you're going to use the photos I give you however you want, and I'm going to use the photos that I take however I want.
mhm.
But I have heard that some models have a contract. And that was what I was getting to because it sounded like you had one. I know photographers are usually very big on having a contract, but I haven't come across, but maybe 4 or 5 models in my travels that actually have one.
So, I decided a few years ago to really push the contract, because And everybody's situation is different, but for me, because I have a business and I have like my image is my business, if that makes sense, when I do
Yeah,
the appearances and the
absolutely.
festivals and everything, people hire me for a reason. Like they hire me for what I represent and what I look like and how I present myself online and whatnot. And like I said, like we
Absolutely.
said earlier, people's perception matters. Like whether we want to
Hmm.
accept it or not, it does matter.
Absolutely.
and and in my contract, my whole thing is if we're doing TFP, you're signing my contract. And if
Hmm.
we're doing a paid thing, then I'll sign your contract.
Sure. Makes
And the
sense.
only big part of my TFP is that the images are for like our personal use, like our businesses, like they can't be sold or used as like stock photography or anything like that, or like sold to a third party where somebody does end up getting payment because well, number one, that's I don't personally think that's fair. But number two, like I don't want my images in my mermaid outfits, especially showing up somewhere random, and then someone comes across my website one day and was like, "Hey, like I saw the mermaid on a condom box or whatever." Like, you know what I mean? Like, you never
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
I have had not that exact scenario, but
Okay.
I've had a situation before where one of my photos ended up somewhere that I was totally not okay with, and I was like, "Hey, my bad. I should have been more clear. That was kind of, I should have done my due diligence, but that's how I learned my lesson." And from then
Right.
on, I was like, okay, I got to have a contract for these things because if someone had paid me to do that, not it wasn't a condom, but it was, I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly what it was, but it was somewhere that I was like not totally okay with. If someone had paid me to do that, that would be a totally different story. Like I'd know what I was getting
Right.
into. It would have been laid out for me like, hey, we're using your photo to advertise a product, or we're using a photo to do
Right.
XYZ. And if it were all laid out for me, I would have been more okay with it than being surprised with it later. So, and that was like the
Sure.
biggest thing. I'm like, it was an unwelcome surprise and I had no control over it. I didn't even get the chance to say yes or no.
Right. Right. No, that makes sense actually. Yeah, I don't know. The whole contract thing I find interesting too. But we've completely segued from who you are and what you're doing at the moment. So we talked about how you got into being a mermaid. How did you get into doing like the dive instructor stuff?
So, a few years ago, I don't remember the exact year, but let's just say 2020. PADI, which is a diving organization that's the most well known around the world, they implemented a mermaid diving program. So you have scuba diving, you have free diving, you have skin diving, now you have mermaid diving. So,
Sure.
and they were a little late to the game because I know some other diving organizations. I think NAUI is like they certify a lot of military, I think. But NAUI, I think had it first. Like PADI was a little bit late, but still a lot of people didn't know, and a lot of people still don't know that this is a thing. And I looked more into it this year, and some of my friends are instructors, so I decided like, hey, why not? This is maybe I'll learn something important. So I did my PADI certifications, and I learned a lot about safety and why we do things the way that we do. I learned how to perform a rescue, which is important if you are dealing with both. If a model and a photographer are underwater and something happens to one of them or both of them, like, what are you going to do? You don't have a safety there with you. Like, you don't have someone who knows how to do the rescue stuff. Like, you're taking
Yeah,
a chance.
sure.
So it made it really clear to me. I was already like a safety advocate, and it just made it even clearer that this has to be something that I stress constantly, consistently. Like I really, really have to stress the safety aspect of it because too many people get hurt. And the instructor part of it, I decided to become an instructor just for the same reasons, because I want people to be safe.
Sure.
Especially the underwater modeling thing. I think people think it's like glamorous and unique and cool, and it is. Like, it is all those things. It's
Sure.
wonderful. It's a great thing to be a part of, and you don't have to have a diving certification to be an underwater model. but are you going to be a better model and are you going to be a safer model? Yes.
Right.
Point blank period. You'll be better. So yeah, I just think pushing more safety in the underwater photography and modeling side of things is important too.
Sure. What have you ever had anything like scary actually happen to where those safety, like you've actually had to jump in and help with anything?
I haven't had any water emergencies, but the cool thing is that when you get an instructor certification, you become an emergency first responder.
Okay.
You're required to take all those courses too and learn CPR and whatnot.
Sure.
And there was the last time I was in Florida, there was somebody who was having a medical emergency that I was able to kind of assist with until the ambulance
Awesome.
got to where we were. Because when you're out in the springs, and this is another thing, like if you don't have the safety training and you're out in the middle of nowhere, it's going to take a long time for somebody to get to you and help you, or help the
Sure.
person that you're with. And if you don't have that training, or if nobody around you has that training, again, what are you going to do? You don't know. It took the ambulance probably half an hour to get there because
Oh,
it
wow.
was after hours and all the rangers had gone, so there wasn't any other like medically trained personnel who could help this person. So
Okay. Look at you being a hero. Flex, girl, flex.
and just I mean,
um,
just to like kind of explain what mermaid diving is real quick. I call it like free diving light. So scuba diving is when you go underwater and you have an oxygen tank with you and you're breathing the whole time. Free diving is when you go underwater on your breath and that's it. You have one breath, that's all you got, and you have to know what to do with it and how to handle yourself. Mermaid diving, same concept. It's just not as high stakes. Like, we're not going to put you in the middle of the ocean to teach you these skills. You do have to do an open water certification portion of the course, like just depending on if you want to take that part. But there's a limit to how deep like we can put you, and like it's a lot less daunting, I think, compared to the free diving
okay.
courses I've taken. So people tend to do the mermaid diving if they want an introduction to free diving, if they're not sure that they want to do it yet, and then they kind of
Okay.
decide from there.
So I had a question and I think I forgot my question. What has been your, I guess, like your best experience when it comes to just the modeling and being a mermaid in general? What's been like the most monumental thing that's come of it so far?
Um, I don't know if I could pick one specific thing because I've had the opportunities to do so many
Okay.
cool things. Um, there
Well, then
was
do you have, oh, go ahead. No,
there
go ahead.
was like the first year I started mermaiding, I got hired for the Key Lime Pie Festival in Florida, in Cocoa Beach. And I was doing that every year until the pandemic. And they haven't started the festival up yet, so we'll see if they have me back. But that was pretty cool. Like the first year I
Cool.
ever started this stuff, I had a really good travel gig out of state in a beautiful place. So
Mhm.
good start to the career.
Well, that's good. Um, One of the reasons I actually haven't done open water yet is because I don't have any certifications. And I'm like, I don't know if I trust myself in open water yet.
Mhm.
Which is actually why when you mentioned Florida, I was like, all right, I could get down with Florida. She's trained enough, I won't die. It's just the reality of it.
Florida's a really good place to start, especially the springs. Like sharks aren't gonna hurt you anyway, disclaimer, but you're not gonna come face to face with a shark in the Florida Springs. So
Sure.
if that's something that anybody's concerned about, go to the springs.
Well, so I had an incident when I was younger where we had this pond that we used to play in on the horse farm where my mom worked, and they actually, hi John, welcome. They actually they pulled these large snapping turtles out of the pond,
Mhm.
and it was like a day after I had just been in it, and I'm like, I'm good. I don't think I ever want to swim in water where I cannot see what I'm swimming with. Like, I think that was my moment at like age 9. I was just like, pools are fine. I can get down with a pool. It's fine.
Yeah, you would like the springs. They're totally clear. I don't even wear goggles when I'm in the springs. I can just see.
Okay.
So
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. I think that's going to go on my list for this year at some point. Because are you based down in Virginia Beach now?
Yeah, I'm in Virginia Beach, but I'm back and forth because my family's in Florida.
Okay.
My whole family, my entire family, like everybody.
How did you end up here?
So my mom's from Florida and my dad's from Tennessee, and then he moved to Florida when he was really young. And then they met wherever they met and moved up here. I'm pretty sure it was for my mom's job. They moved up to the DC area, and then we stayed there. And they've had that same house up until the end of last year. Well, they still have the house, but they moved at the end of last year. So that's like what, 27 years they had that house, and they moved at the end of last year to Florida to be with the rest of the family because nobody else ever left. And they're working on selling the other house now.
Okay.
Bittersweet.
So if you could give a piece of advice, a pro and a con of doing what you do with the underwater modeling, what would that be?
I would say the pros are you have so much more freedom of movement and freedom of creativity, I feel like, and you're going to learn a lot on your own, which is something that I appreciate. I like learning on my own. And you're going to figure out, you're just going to, like, it works your brain a little bit because you are going in, you're going underwater. You can't really, you can see a little bit, but you can't really see, and you're not going to know how those photos turn out until you're done.
Right.
Like there's no checking the back of the camera while you're in the middle of an underwater session. And, like you just adjust from there and you figure out what works for you. And I think it's a great brain teaser. I think that it's beautiful. It's my favorite type of modeling to do. I just feel more myself when I'm doing that type of modeling.
Okay.
I feel more, I feel free. That's like a, that's like a cliche, but that's what it feels like. You have a lot of freedom under there. And I would say the cons.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the cons. It's hard to find creatives who are on the same page as you, I guess, because like it's just harder to, because there's not that many, like there's so many people who do regular photography. There's not a lot of people who do underwater photography. And the people who do underwater photography and do it well, they often don't necessarily share your vision, or they don't want to work with you, or they're really, really expensive, or they're really hard to find, or really hard to nail down, and really hard to book. So that's like, it's, and there's those issues with regular photography too, but I feel like it's amplified times 10 with underwater photography.
I could see that, because I know even from my perspective, from what I see, because when I decided that this was something that I wanted to look into, it's like everything that I do in my life, like I research, and like just like dive in, for pun intended. I just kind of like dive into the information. And the first one I came across was Brett Stanley. And I very much like his work. It all has a tendency to look very much the same. But I very much like his work. I actually appreciated the fact he posted what did he post? He posted like an edit video from Mermagicon. And let me tell you, I forgot about Mermagicon. I didn't get signed up for it. And I was so mad about it when it showed up. I was like, oh, I should have been there for that.
Well, you know what? There's a new convention that's being started next
Educate me.
Next April.
Okay.
It's called the Siren Symposium.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be bigger than Mermagicon. So you might want I want to take a look if you want to be an
Okay.
underwater photographer. They're taking interest forms now for who wants to do what.
Okay. What was it called again? Siren what?
Siren with a Y, like SYREN symposium.
Okay.
Just remind me on like Instagram or something, and I'll send you the page.
Okay, that works. And I was not Isabella Hunter. She's different. There was another female, and starts with like an I and an L. I cannot think of. She's European based, if I remember correctly. Ilsa is her name. And she recently did something with Netflix. She did, I don't know if it was a trailer for whatever movie they had or whatever, but it was really cool what she ended up coming up with. But what she did, and I cannot imagine how much it would have cost for this, but what she ended up doing was she built a tank. And I think she built her tank, like shipping container size tank, and made it movable. I know that they have tanks around here that are more like aquatic looking. Hers was set up to where I think she could shoot from 3 sides maybe, or 2 sides, because you had to make it, a certain structural integrity so that the water doesn't just blow out the sides of the tank. So she shoots a lot differently, and, she shoots from the outside of the tank, not necessarily inside, but sometimes she shoots inside as well too, which I thought was cool. But out of those two, as I cannot keep these things in my ear to save my life. So it was interesting doing the research, because there's information, but there's not information. And then a lot of the other underwater photographers, they're for sea life, or they're videographers for sea adventures. It wasn't really about people. It was about creatures at that point.
Yeah, like it's about the animals, which is great. I love animals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a few. I'm trying to think of like. So there's you, and then I do a lot of my own stuff. I would count my husband. My husband is a great underwater photographer. He's over there. He's not in here, but he's over there. But maybe he can hear me.
Hi, husband.
He's good. He's really good. He helps me with a lot of my stuff too. And there's Christy Shark. She's in Maryland.
Is that the Shark Pixel one?
Yeah, I've actually tried reaching out to her a few times, and I think we just like keep missing each other.
Okay.
But yeah, there's her. There's Chuck Guthrie, but I don't know him. That's just a name. That's just a name that I remember. And then there's Submerged Photography, and they do.
I've seen that one. I think I follow that one.
They do Mermagicon with Brett Stanley. Not with him, but they both do.
Right.
Photography there. And I've worked with Submerge in the past. They're great. But I think that's. Oh, the Vero Beach Mermaid does some stuff underwater too, I think. Yeah, I think. I'm not sure what that division of her company is called.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of people who they attempt it, but they don't necessarily stick with it. There's another one I think I have on Facebook. I think his name is Brian Cosgrove or something like that. He doesn't do it. He doesn't do a lot, but he does some. Some of it's beachside, and some of it's underwater.
There was another one. I'm probably gonna butcher her name, Melanie Canatella, but she kind of fell off the face of the earth. I don't know what happened to her.
Okay.
But for a while, everybody used her.
Well,
that's all I can think of.
I know Brett Stanley's actually located on the West Coast. He's not located on the East Coast.
Okay.
So when he was here for Mermagicon, somebody had sent me the link. I don't remember who it was, but somebody had sent me the link that he was looking for a second shooter, or he was looking for something. And I had reached out to him, but I guess he had already found who he was looking for. And that was when I realized that I forgot about Mermagicon. Like I forgot to sign up for it.
Yeah.
And but he's the one that I hear about the most. I mean, out of everyone, he's the one that I hear about the most or see the most of. But I think he got into it so early on that he's made such a name for himself. Like I think he's just kind of synonymous with underwater photography.
Yeah, I think that's also where a lot of people fall short is the wrong word because that's not what I mean. But that's another, like, if you don't get into underwater photography, like, you need, like, the earlier the better, because if you are left behind, then it's harder to get people to work with you too. Because,
Sure.
like, you need,
Sure.
I think, like, I had a few, like, years, a couple years experience, like, under my belt before anybody, like, even thought about working with me for
Sure.
underwater stuff. Like, I had already kind of shot some of my own things and worked on some of my own stuff, and then done a few events and got my name out there. And then people were like, "Hey, like, we want to work with you." And I'm like, "Okay." I mean, I don't know why you asked me earlier.
Don't know why you want to work with me.
And then
So-
that's like, that's
Okay.
another thing. I think a lot of underwater photographers work with, like, the same few people.
Sure.
And that makes it harder for other people to get in on it, because it's like, okay, well, if you're going to work with the same person over and over and over again, like, I think at a certain point that kind of hurts your advertising.
I'll give you that, because I mean, I know that I have models that I work with because, one, because they're easy to work with,
Mhm.
but two, some of that comes about because, like, for me, for content, you know, I don't necessarily want to pay somebody just so that I can have content.
Mhm.
So some people are going to pay me because they want my photography, which is fine. But I think sometimes that's how people get kind of pigeonholed with the same people, is those people don't always need to be paid for what's happening.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that really comes into play. That's actually something that I've recently had a conversation with, where I was talking about the male photographers that don't make females uncomfortable. They're more likely to be able to work with females that aren't going to charge them.
Mhm.
Like, there's one in particular, like, he still gives them gas money. He's like, it's not that I don't necessarily want to pay them or I can't pay them, but because we both benefit from it, they don't charge me for it. So
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
sometimes that's what happens too when you kind of get pigeonholed. But I also think, to your point, where people don't have the same vision, I think sometimes that's where that comes into play too. It's like, once you have that rapport, especially doing something as risky as underwater, I could
Mhm.
see where that would come into play.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, fair enough.
would you have, because see, I like doing the more character-based stuff. Like, I don't mind shooting the whole mermaid concept, but I'd rather shoot. That's actually one of the things that I will definitely give Brett Stanley credit for. He's doing something I want to do, but I don't have, like, the pool access that I really want. I want to set up something underwater that looks like it's everyday life, but it shouldn't be underwater.
Mhm.
And I think that's really where he made his niche, was being able to build sets, because I think he has a pool in his backyard. So he's able to build a set, and then he's able to shoot within that set.
Mhm.
But what advice would you give to photographers who want to get into underwater photography? Maybe things they didn't think about, or things they need to consider if that's something they want to do.
I would say, like, take a scuba class, take a diving course, and really have someone walk you through how it feels to be underwater for longer periods of time, because I think that's what really catches a lot of people off guard. Like, oh, I can hold my breath, and then they go under, and they think they're under a lot longer than they actually are.
Sure.
And they come back up, and then the model's like, you were only under there for like 5 seconds. So I think like, that's important to kind of understand what your limits are, and recognize when you need to come up and kind of train yourself a little bit more, and work on the physical aspects of it first.
Sure.
Because it's frustrating if you have, like, two total newbies working with each other. Nobody can stay underwater for very long because they're not used to it. There's nothing wrong with that. You're just not used to it.
Right.
And it ends up being kind of chaotic, and nobody gets the shots that they want because everybody's so focused on trying to stay under there, and then everybody gets really tired.
Well, I love that statement about not getting the shots, because I always tell everybody, because everybody's like, oh, I love this or I love that. I'm like, I just got lucky. I love you, but I just got lucky with whatever shot it was that you like right now. I promise you, because it took me all of last season to figure out how much weight I needed to wear to keep my butt down. Because I would go down and then my butt would come up and then I'm underwater like this with a camera down like this, trying to like, because my butt's up here because I'm overweight and fat goes that way. So I finally found out how much I could wear around my waist to actually keep me down. So like, I'm really excited to shoot underwater this year because I'm like, I have control now, I think.
That's how I feel about like making some more of my own content this year. I'm like, okay, I think I have a pretty good, like I'm getting better at it. Like I'm getting a feel for it. Like we're getting there. So I'm excited too. And that's another thing, like especially if you live in cooler climates, it's gonna take you longer to get better at the underwater stuff because you can't swim in the middle of winter, and 9 out of 10 times these indoor pools are going to tell you to fuck off. Like they don't want that there. They don't want mermaid tails. They don't want cameras. They don't want that there. So
I ran into that here actually because I had signed up here in Warrenton. We have an aquatic center, and I had signed up for a membership there because I wanted to be able to shoot, in one of the lanes. And my initial impression was that was going to be an option. And then all of a sudden that wasn't an option. And I was like, I wouldn't have signed up for the membership.
What's the name of that place?
The one here is called The Wharf. It's the Warrenton Aquatic Center. There's one in Manassas.
There's another one. I want to say, I always get Winchester and Warrenton mixed up, but in one of those W cities, there's an aquatic center that does allow all of it.
Well, I'm pretty sure that the one in Manassas does because I think that's where MerMagicCon was.
Yeah. There's a different
but I haven't reached out to them to see what that would look like on a daily basis. Because that's the other thing. Because I don't have access to a pool, I have to pay for one. So if I just want to practice, I have to decide, okay, am I spending several hours doing this in just one day and then I can just knock out a bunch of content? Or, do I need to set up, a day where I do a bunch of portraits for people who want to do stuff underwater so that I can pay for the pool and they can pay me for my time? But last year I used Swimply. And Swimply was a good resource, but the pricing is all over the place. So average of what I paid was anywhere between $20 and $40 an hour. Yeah. And that was just for practice time, so that wasn't like somebody paying me money to photograph them. That was just so that I could truly teach myself and learn, what I needed to try to function properly as an underwater photographer. And there's still things I want to do. Like I want to do the whole backdrop thing and give that a shot. I would love to be able to build like, what is it? Kind of like a diffusion, if you will, above the pool in some situations to where I want the light, but I don't need all the light streaks all the time, depending on what I'm shooting. I love the light streaks because I love the way that they show up, but you don't want that for like every shot.
Yeah, I get that. Guess you're gonna have to build a pool.
I know. I'm like, I live in a 1-bedroom condo. Girl, let me tell you. Last year, I got an inflatable pool. I'm like, I could put this in my living room.
Well, look, if you want, next time I go to Florida, my family has pools. We have like a lot of pools.
Okay.
We could do something and set up a backdrop down there and try the pool stuff. Yeah, try the pool stuff, try the Ginny Springs stuff. Just make
do you know when you're going down again?
I'm actually going down this weekend, but it's for a wedding thing. So I think May I'm pretty booked up. So the next
That's fine. I'm in South Carolina, I think from like the 13th to the 21st.
There's also Lake Phoenix in Virginia, but it's a drive.
Never heard of that.
It's interesting. It looks it's a quarry. It looks pretty clear.
That makes sense.
There. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Pretty clear.
I have a girlfriend of mine who teaches the PADI and the scuba stuff up here, and they use a quarry here in Culpeper.
Okay, yeah, Lake Phoenix is another quarry that a lot of scuba people go to.
Okay.
That's definitely you gotta set up like a week in Florida, like the content creation.
I like it.
I like it like a lot. Well, and I just finished re-outfitting the van. So I basically have a small cargo van. I have a Nissan NV200. So I decided when I really knew that I love doing the photography, but I like traveling and doing the photography. As much as like most photographers want to have their studio, like, you want to have this big warehouse style studio, whatever it is. So you have all these options. My brain is kind of like, other people have these things. I can just
I
go
want to
to
travel
theirs.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Totally
just want to go to
understand.
theirs. So when I decided that, I really wanted to travel, I had done RV living for like 6 months to give it a try. Like and I still heavily consider the fact that I probably should have stuck with it. But I really do. I love my condo. Don't get me wrong. But I recently just redid the structure in the van because it's a small van. So I use it for my everyday driver, but I can also travel in it. So I have a bed back there. I put shelving in. I have a roof rack that has storage for all the stuff that I don't need to get to all the time. So, doing a week anywhere usually isn't too much of an issue. I actually went down to Florida last year for MegaCon. I have a friend of mine. He's a fangsmith. So he makes fangs based off your teeth. Like he uses actual like denture material to make them.
He makes
So
grills.
I went, huh?
Like he makes grills.
Yeah, exactly. And so I went down for that, and I'm like, it was nice. I did a straight shot, just kind of like down. We did the convention, and then I did a straight shot back. But it was nice just to be able to not have to worry about having a hotel room. And I hate paying for hotel rooms. I really do. It really annoys me that you basically pay to sleep in it for 8 hours.
I've always wanted to like go to the Springs and then stay there overnight and like just do 2 full days of just content. But
Could you camp there?
Yeah, you can. I just hate camping. That's my dilemma. Hate camping. I've never been on a camping trip that I've enjoyed, even like a little tiny bit. But like, there must be something about it that you like. No, I hated all of it. So I'm like, well, maybe if there's like a reason that I like or a reason for me to be there that I agree
Matt,
with.
I almost missed it. Matt gave us another one. Look up Water Bear Photography out of Florida. They built a pretty good backdrop system for their pool. Matt, you're about to be my bestie. Just know that.
Yeah, Matt's on it.
I know. I like it.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Some of this looks like... I'm going to try to show the camera.
Okay. That actually looks like Ilsa style work. The one that's based out of Europe.
Yeah. Huh. Baby dream backdrops. Cool. Okay. This is nice.
I'll have to check that out. Thank you, Matt, for a win. Appreciate you.
I'm gonna look at Matt's page.
Well, Matt's coming to us from YouTube, so I'm not sure where Matt found us, but his name sounds familiar. I feel like I actually know him, and I feel bad that I'm not putting a face to him. But
hey Matt, are you long exposure _VA? Let me know if that.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Hey.
Good job.
You're following me. Okay, I got you.
Way to investigate.
Oh, you shot with Danielle. Okay. Cool. There's a great photo of his dog.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
oh, it's like a rescue dog. Okay, I can't read. Cool. Well, yeah, Matt, you should come to the workshop once we figure out how we're gonna do it.
Absolutely. All right, I'm following Matt now. Matt, you've been followed.
You've been followed. We're following you.
So, camping. I understand you completely, which is exactly why I outfitted the van the way that I did, because I found what I hated about camping was sleeping outside on the ground.
Yeah,
that was my least favorite thing to do. It was my least favorite thing to do.
Mm-mm.
So the van gave me like that security kind of measure. And what's interesting is I don't camp. A lot of times what I do is whenever I'm on my way somewhere, I'm usually on a major highway. I pull over at a rest area. I have not been to Carousel yet this year, Matt.
I don't know what that is.
No, I do, because he said I'm in Warrenton. Matt, where are you located? I'm about to just bring Matt into the freaking.
Yep, Matt, bring Matt in.
I can't, Matt. I can bring you in. I just have to figure it out first. Hang on.
You just have to send. You have to find a way to send him the link that you
See,
sent me.
invite. Yeah, I got it. Let's see. Oh,
Bring Matt in. Bring Matt.
Matt, we're coming for you. Hang on. Let's see. Message. I'm going to message you on Instagram. All right. There you go. Send to Matt. We're going to bring Matt into the live. We're over here living our best lives today. Hi, Marlena.
Marlena.
Yes, Cassie does underwater
Cassie.
photography too.
Cassie, how could I freaking forget? Cassie took a bunch of my pictures. I met her as she did a photography thing, like a pinup photography thing that I was at. And then I just kind of knew her as a model, so it slipped my mind. But no, Cassie, yes.
That was how I met. That's how I met Cassie as well too. I think I met Cassie the first time somebody put a camera back in my hand, and I apologized to her over and over and over again because I hadn't done photography in like 15 years, and like half the photos I took were blurry. Like it was really sad. And I still got a couple decent photos of her, and then I got to meet her again later, and she's truly like one of my favorite people. She makes my heart happy.
Oh yeah, Cassie's fantastic.
Well, Cassie is one of those people where you were talking about Marlena. She is amazing. I love her so much, but she's an amazing photographer too. I agree with you on that as well. Her and I, creativity wise, we're usually kind of like on the same page. And then she'll say something, I go, oh, I like that. Can we add this to it? And she's like, yeah, let's do it. So that's the nice thing is like, even though we both have ideas, we either find a blend in between or we just say, screw it. And we do both of them. And then we see which one we like at the end.
Yeah,
we got Matt.
I love that. We got Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's good. So tell us about your photography since you've been following and you've been chatting with us.
So I shoot a little bit of everything.
Okay.
I've been shooting since I was 5. And
well, all right then.
I was, 5, and we went to air shows. And I got tired of Dad taking pictures. I said, give me the camera, let me try it. And I've never looked back.
That's awesome.
This is really cool.
Oh, thank you. So my wife is actually Native American.
Okay.
So that was actually at a powwow. I think that was the Chickahominy powwow. I think that's what's on there.
I'm just scrolling.
We're both doing the same thing. I'm like, I want to find what I like. Actually,
there's really good like depth of field happening in these photos.
Let's see.
The handsome boy.
So that's my buddy Barry.
Cute.
But I shoot a little bit of everything. I do.
Oh, that's not what I wanted. Keep talking.
I do anything and everything from boudoir to family to Santa Claus. There's actually some Santa pictures on there, and that's actually my father-in-law. So when you see Santa Claus, that's my father-in-law.
That's funny.
Right.
Where are you located?
Just east of Richmond. I'm in Mechanicsville.
Okay, gotcha.
Show you guys Matt's photography here while we're over here talking about him and perusing it anyway. You said you're in Charlottesville or you're out by Richmond?
Out by Richmond. I'm in Mechanicsville.
Oh, okay. Oh,
we got to do some beach mermaid pics, Matt.
Let's do it. I'm always down.
Especially like it's getting warmer now. Oh, speaking of beach stuff, Dawn, there's
Yes, dear.
there's this little area that I went to. I think it was in Norfolk, but it's a little beach area, and I went at sunrise, like early in the morning for a shoot, and the water was warm and it was clear. And I think, if you want to give that a shot, if because all you could do, because there's a drop off, all you really need to do is like just crouch down and like drop the camera in, and then there's like that big expanse. So it doesn't
Okay.
it doesn't require anything funky, and you can see. And I was like, wow, this is like weirdly
this?
clear for a Virginia beach.
Where is this?
I think it's in Norfolk. I'd have to
Okay.
ask the photographer, because I pulled off in some random parking lot and then walked on like a random sidewalk and took like a random trail to a random spot. Like that's what happened.
Okay. So Matt, with this dog photo, are you using a dome for your underwater, or what are you doing for that water shot?
I am actually. So I forgot. I think it's a Polar Pro dome, but that's actually, even though I talk smack about the GoPro, that's actually a GoPro shot.
I see the hashtag.
But I've just recently upgraded. I bought an Altex setup.
That's what I have. I have. I don't have the dome for my Altex, but the Altex is what I have. I have the front and back glass for mine.
Gotcha. Yeah, I dove all in. I'm actually going down to Florida to go to a workshop with Water Bear next week, whatever the first week in May is. So I just jumped in with both feet. I bought their 180 millimeter dome setup.
Okay.
So.
Well, yeah. If you're ever in Florida at the same time as me, we should figure out a way to get some good stuff.
For sure.
Absolutely. So, Matt, you said you started young. What did you start other than the air show stuff? How did you progress through? Did you do what the typical photographer does, and family photos, weddings, that sort of thing?
Actually, it's just like the family snapshot thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was scrolling through Meetup because I was bored of just shooting family, and a lot of my family doesn't like their pictures taken. Like my dad has a photo album dedicated to Kenny Shoots the Bird Around the World, because every picture he's given us the finger.
Got it.
So
I have one of those.
So I was on a Meetup site, and I think it's Halloween Moreno was doing one in Ashland, and I said, well, let me go shoot people. So I did that, and the rest is history.
Okay. Yeah, I find everybody's adventure is, kind of a little different. Now, do you do the photography like full time? Is that your job, or is it just a hobby for you?
Hobby with aspirations of it being full time.
Okay. What do you find? And I ask this of everybody because I know what they are personally for me. What have you found to be probably the biggest frustration point for you when it comes to potentially being a full-time photographer?
Finding paying clients.
Right.
Paying people to shoot with is easy enough, but finding somebody that's willing to give you the money to shoot with is not easy.
So, I have a question for you on that, and you do not have to answer this, but I always like to ask everybody, what their rates are, because I do my rates a little bit higher than the average person. I usually say it's $300 for the first hour and then $100 an hour for each hour after that, only because my edit time takes so long that my time to get there, that's not the only amount of time that I am spending on this project, but they don't get to see that. What do you usually find is like what are they willing to spend versus what they're not willing to spend?
Generally, I've been pretty comfortable with like the $100 an hour mark.
Okay.
But most of my stuff has been just the quick like mini sessions with Santa. So it's normally, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes at the very most. And that's if I've got a uncooperative child that is going bonkers. I'm fairly patient, and normally I set my sessions out long enough that I've got some fluff time on the back or the front, so I can accommodate for that. but I'm normally in the $100 an hour range.
So do you only charge the $100 an hour, or do you do the $100 an hour and then they have package options after?
So I do $100 an hour with at least, it's normally been 7 image guaranteed, but normally they get 10 to 15. And I just kind of go through and I pick the best, the ones that I think are the best, and I send them on to them.
Okay. All right. That's actually really good information. I always like hearing everybody's perspective on that because everybody's like a little bit different.
Mhm.
And, you know, some of the TFP photographers where, you know, they do it as a hobby. So they do TFP mostly. I have one, he's one of my favorite people, but when I first met him, he was sending like 50 photos, like when they were done with the TFP. And I'm like, that's entirely too many, one, to edit, and two, like to go through to pick a favorite. I need you to calm down.
I would rather have like maybe 5 or 6 really solidly edited photos than like a bunch of like photos with the same filter over them. I'm like, well,
I
it's not
agree.
really editing, is it? Like,
Well, but that's exactly it. So like from my perspective, the way I say it is even when I do the TFP, I usually guarantee you're going to get 4 because if we only do one look and we don't change up like location a lot or, you know, whatever it is we're doing, because a lot of times, I don't know about for you, but the TFP events that I usually go to, I could work with 12 people in an 8-hour like time frame just because there's that many people there. So it's like next look, next person, next person, next person. So 4 can be a lot depending on the person because I do retouch style editing. So I have to edit skin. I may have to fix makeup in the process of editing skin. I might have to fix hair. I might have to remove things from the background because the background wasn't ideal. But I find that once you get beyond 4 photos of the same look, people stop looking at them. They don't care because you have to change up the pose and the positioning and the angle enough to make those 4 photos look like it's worth looking at.
And I don't think people really realize how much goes into editing something. I mean, it's,
Oh, agreed.
I mean, I shoot at a studio. I've got a small studio in Richmond that I shoot out of, but I rent
Oh, I'm
studios.
coming to visit. I'm coming to visit, Matt. Coming to visit.
well, I'll go and have a party.
Come on.
Mhm.
There's actually a pretty cool place right down the street to get dinner and hang out, and they do live bands. So come on.
Matt, you're making it sound even better. We're coming. I don't know when, but we're coming.
But so one of the places that I shoot, she's got a few different rooms set up to shoot in, and one of them she calls the dark room. And there's like
Okay.
candles and little lamps and stuff set around. I go the extra mile to light the lamps, quote unquote. You know, just put a little glow in them, and nobody ever sees it, but I see it, and it's like,
Yeah.
it only took me 5 minutes, but when you do that across 10 pictures, you know, all that time adds up, and I don't think
absolutely
really realize it. I mean, you see people that, I don't know about y'all, but when you do like the auto select subject and it perfectly selects the skin of whoever you're editing. My Lightroom of Photoshop has issues and it'll select everything under the sun, and so I've got to go back. It's just me and Lightroom and Photoshop are on a love-hate relationship.
You know, it's funny. So you use both?
I do. I try to stay in Lightroom mostly because
you can batch edit.
Yeah, you can batch, and my computer doesn't like Photoshop because my computer is an older one. So I try to stay in Lightroom, and it's just a quicker workflow.
Sure, especially if you're doing multiples.
But when I have to bust out the big guns and I've got to shut everything down, the computer.
I had that happen too. So I ended up having to upgrade my computer, and that's where costs come in. Is I don't think people really realize the cost associated with more of the high-end work, because it's not just the amount of time, but it's the equipment and the software and the things that go into that. I can't tell you how often. I don't do it very often, and I probably should do it more socially, where I show somebody the before photo of what the actual out of camera photo looks like, and then the version that they get after the edit. The difference is just, it's stark. Like, I mean, you notice that there's a difference, but nobody sees the original. Half the time you don't want anybody to see the original anyway, because they're going to hate it, you know, because they had a pimple that morning or their hair was out of place, whatever it was. But yeah, no, I feel you on that one.
They don't see
I had
the
to do the same thing.
tediousness of going. I call them flyers. Like when I'm shooting a female and her hair is kind of like, you've got a flyer over here and a flyer over there. And I'm going through and I'm hitting every one. And then you cut something and the wall looks funny. So then you got to go back and redo the wall. And it's like, I'll tell you, my biggest pet peeve is electrical outlets and like light switches.
I've been there.
No end.
I've been there. I had a shoot like that where there was a space that we were working in, and it was a very small space that we were working in, and the way it was set up, like I had to unplug the lamps because the cords were like over here because the outlets were so far away from where the table and the lamps were. And but not everybody thinks about that. Sometimes they shoot and all that information still stays in. And I don't think people realize that sometimes that's what they're paying for, is they're paying for that like extra mile of editing.
And I've done some group shoots where another irritation of mine is generally when you rent a studio space, it's going to be some kind of industrial office warehouse kind of space. And 99% of them have drop tile ceilings. Well, you shoot that when you shoot with the more of the boudoir aspect of things, or like the family photos at Christmas time, people don't have drop tile ceilings in their house, and it's very distracting. So a lot of the people that I've shot with don't pay any attention to that, and they shoot so far back that if you crop in, you're going to lose the quality of the image to get rid of the drop tile. So they just kind of have to live with it.
Right.
And a lot of people I don't think would notice it, but to me, it's just like, man, I messed that up. You know, it's just one of those things.
Oh yeah, I have music on my computer. Stop it. Okay. I keep tapping my earbud to keep it in, and I keep turning the music back on.
So I actually have to head out in a few minutes.
Okay.
Sorry.
So no, you're fine. Do we have like 10 minutes? Because I want to go over your website too.
Yeah, we have.
Okay. All right. So let me add, let's see, share this tab instead. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So I wanted to ask you about your website because I actually really like the way your website is set up. It's adorable.
Thank you.
It's just endearing. And it's you picked great colors for your lemonade mermaid. Do you still make the custom swim tops?
Yeah, I do. Here, I have one right here. Hold on.
Ooh, that one looks fancy. Let me make that bigger. Hang on. Can I make you bigger? I don't know if I can make you bigger. Hang on. Let's see. Oh, that looks fancy.
I gotta fix some things on it because my customer requested some adjustments. But it was my first time. Like I made her a custom pigment because she wanted something really like foresty and specific, like really rivery, and I made this really cool like bronze green color.
Okay. One of the things that I like that you have on your website, and it's so super silly, is Shell.
Yeah,
it's so silly, but I love it. I read that and I'm like, she did that on purpose, and that's adorable. Stop it.
Yeah, people tend to, the site's really taken off more than I thought it would initially. So
yeah, I mean, you've got beachwear, you've got cosmetics. I mean, you got like a little bit of everything happening. What would you say your best seller is?
Besides the tops,
the
lip gloss.
Yeah.
I get a lot of
here.
Yeah, that one. I get a lot of repeat customers for that because they say that it works really well and they love it and it's cute.
Okay. All right, I could see that.
And people like the body products too, like the scrubs and the body butters.
Okay. I could see that.
People like the leggings. The leggings are really popular.
Let's go find the leggings apparel. Okay. So the mermaid scales with the pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I designed all those cute little things to put on there and the patterns and whatnot. So
Okay.
that was hard. That was a lot of work.
Oh, I know. I'm working on mine right now. I know how much time it takes.
I do like custom colored requests too for the leggings.
Okay.
Sometimes people want them in their own colors. So
yeah, I mean, that makes sense, especially if they have a color scheme. And then you have your Hire a Mermaid, which actually kicks you to your actual website, correct?
So that's the website that's going to go away soon. I have it up there because I want to kick everything off. But if you go to citrusmermaid.com.
Citrus.
Yeah.
Help if I could spell it.
Like the fruits, like a citrus fruit. Yeah, and if you click on Hire a Mermaid up there. Oops, sorry.
You and your pop-ups.
Yeah, it works.
Okay.
So, I think, yeah, you should be able to scroll. There's arrows on the sides. You can scroll through everybody on the roster, and all those lovely mermaids are for hire for whatever you need.
Okay.
Within reason.
Sure.
But yeah, this could be good for you, Dawn, if you're looking for other people to work with. I can personally vouch for all of these folks here.
Okay. All right. Now, so with this one, you have request a booking here. Click on list of available. So if I click on you, it doesn't, like, clicking on this doesn't take me anywhere.
Yeah,
but I want to
so
put
I'm still building this part of the website out.
Okay.
On my old website, I had it where you at one point you could click in.
It pulls up their email.
Well, yeah, it did that, but I also a while ago had it so it would click into people's individual profiles.
Okay.
But I was like, that's just so
Lots
I don't even know if I want to. It was tedious, and I was adding so many people, and I'm like, I just need to stop adding people and then go back and do profiles one at a time. Yeah.
Right.
So for now, there's the email form, and you can just email me about any one of these people. But eventually, I'm going to build the profiles out again, and they will be clickable, and you'll be able to click in there.
Okay. All right. Well, that's awesome. All right. Well, I know we need to get moving because I was only planning on doing this for an hour, and we're at an hour and a half, and I blame Matt.
It's all my fault. I'll take that.
Why?
But Matt's my new bestie now. I just want you to know that's your new title.
That'll work.
You didn't know that was happening today.
Not a clue.
Thank you both so much, Matt. Thank you for being a good sport and joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
Starr, thank you. And I look forward to, I definitely tomorrow, let's look at scheduling. Let's look at your schedule, my schedule, and then see where we can make them blend somewhere. And then we need to schedule this workshop that we want to put together too. I did reach out, you know what, now that I think about it, I did reach out to Josh, but I don't think he got back to me. I need to go poke him. I'm going to go poke Josh Triggs. I hope you know I'm coming for you, Josh. I know you're not watching, but I'm putting it out there in the ether. All right. Thank you, guys.
He's working on the Mag's Head shoot right now.
Oh, that's true. That's fair. I messaged him a couple weeks ago when we first talked about it.
No, that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago. So I just need to nudge him. He's a busy guy too, though, because somebody said, "Hey, friends." I don't know who. I got to pull the thing up. I don't know what happened. I closed out everything. I'm horrible at this.
But yeah, if y'all get something together, I'm for sure down for shooting. I do a little bit of everything. So.
Okay, well, we'll have to put that Outtex, case to the test for you. What do you shoot with?
So I'm a hybrid shooter through and through. I shoot Olympus, I shoot Sony, and Nikon.
Okay.
So I shoot a little bit.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. The Outtex is perfect for that too.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious how I broke down and I bought a Z9 last year.
Oh, did you?
Yes, and I'm curious to see how that does underwater next week. So.
Okay, I'll be curious. You'll have to fill me in. I'll be curious because the Z9 is entirely too big for me. I have the Z6 II, and that's perfect.
Well, the 10th, I think, is when the 8's being released. So.
Okay. All right, Matt, I'm gonna have to have you on a live, just you and yourself, and we're gonna let Starr go because
That'll
he
work.
needs to go. Bye, guys. Thank
Bye.
you so
Bye.
much. Bye.